You are not broke because you are lazy. You are broke because your behavior has been trained quietly, repeatedly, systematically. Every month you work, you earn, you try to be responsible, and somehow you still feel behind. That is not random. You have been pulled into a cycle that rewards short-term relief and punishes long-term thinking. You spend to feel better. You delay to feel safe. And both are costing you more than you realize. Most people never see this. They keep adjusting their income while the real problem stays untouched. Today, you are going to see exactly what is draining your wealth, not the obvious mistakes, the silent habits. And once you see them clearly, you will not be able to unsee them. There is a specific kind of frustration that most people never talk about. It is not loud. It does not look dramatic, but it sits there quietly every single month. You get paid. For a moment, things feel under control. You tell yourself this month will be different. More discipline, less waste, better decisions. And then life starts happening. A few small purchases. A couple of I deserve this moments. Some things you did not plan for but felt justified. Nothing extreme. Nothing reckless. Just normal. And somehow, 2 or 3 weeks later, that sense of control is gone again. Now you are checking your account more carefully, doing small mental calculations before buying basic things, telling yourself to just get through until the next paycheck. Think about that. You are not irresponsible. You are not careless. You are not out here making obviously bad decisions. And yet, you still feel financially tight. That is the part that slowly drains you, not because you do not earn money, but because your money never seems to build anything solid. It comes in, it goes out, and you are left with motion, not progress. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt genuinely ahead? Not temporarily comfortable. Not relieved because a bill got paid. Actually ahead, where your money was working quietly in the background instead of disappearing the moment it arrived. Most people cannot answer that. And that is not because they are lazy. It is because they are stuck in a pattern that feels normal. You wake up, go to work, handle responsibilities, try to be better, try to be smarter. But underneath all that effort, there's a constant low-level pressure, bills waiting, decisions piling up, a quiet sense that no matter how hard you push, something is off. And here is where it gets uncomfortable. Because if you are honest, there are moments where you know exactly what you are doing. You open an app, you scroll, you add something to your cart, not because you need it, but because in that moment it feels like relief, a small reward, a break from the pressure. You tell yourself it is not a big deal. And you are right. Individually it is not. But that is exactly how the pattern hides. Not one big mistake. 100 small ones, spread across days that feel completely ordinary. This is the part most people never slow down enough to see. They keep focusing on earning more, working harder, finding the next opportunity. But they never question the quiet behaviors happening in between, the 5-minute decisions, the automatic habits, the emotional spending that does not feel emotional at all. Are you seeing it yet? This is not about discipline in the way you think. It is not about cutting everything out or living like a machine. It is about something much more subtle. The way your daily behavior has been shaped to keep you busy, distracted, and just comfortable enough to never fully break out. And if you do not see it clearly, you will keep repeating it. Month after month, year after year. Earning, spending, resetting. Earning, spending, resetting. That is the loop. That is what drains you. And most people stay inside it their entire lives without ever naming it. But once you see it clearly, it starts to lose its power. And that is where we are going next. But here is the part most people never fully understand. You are not stuck because you lack discipline. You are stuck because your behavior has been shaped in a way that makes discipline feel unnatural. That is the real problem. Not your effort, not your intentions, your conditioning. Think about how your day actually unfolds. You wake up, and within minutes, your attention is already being pulled in different directions. Messages, notifications, news, social feeds. Before you have even made a single intentional decision, your brain is already reacting. That matters more than you think. Because every time your attention gets pulled like that, your brain pays a small cost, a switching cost. You shift from one thing to another, and each shift drains a little bit of mental clarity. It is subtle, but it adds up. By the time you reach the middle of the day, you are not just physically tired. You are cognitively fragmented. Your focus is thinner. Your patience is lower. Your ability to make deliberate decisions is weaker. And this is where the pattern starts to tighten. Because when your brain is tired, it does not look for what is right. It looks for what is easy, fast reward, low resistance, immediate relief. That is where spending slips in. Not as a big emotional event, but as something that feels completely reasonable in the moment. You are not thinking, I am sabotaging my future. You are thinking, this will make me feel a little better right now. And your brain agrees. Because it has been trained to. This is dopamine at work, not in a complicated, scientific way. In a very practical, everyday way. Your brain learns from repetition. If stress is followed by spending, and spending creates relief, your brain connects the two. Stress equals spend. Spend equals relief. That loop gets stronger every time. And after a while, it becomes automatic. You do not even notice it happening. Let me make this very real. You have a long day. You feel drained. You open your phone. You scroll for a minute. You see something you like. You hesitate for a second, then you justify it. It's not that expensive. I've been working hard. I'll be more careful later. That moment right there, that is not random. That is a trained response. And here is where it gets deeper. Because it is not just about spending. It is about identity. You say you want to build wealth, but your daily behavior is built around consumption. You say you want freedom, but your habits are optimized for comfort. You say you want control, but your decisions are reactive. That mismatch creates quiet tension. You feel it, even if you cannot explain it. That sense of being slightly off, like you are doing a lot, but not moving the direction that actually matters. That is identity drift, and it is one of the most expensive things in your life. Not because it is dramatic, but because it is consistent. Day after day, small decisions pull you slightly away from the person you are trying to become. And because each decision feels small, you never interrupt the pattern. Are you starting to see it? This is not about one bad habit. It is a system. A system where your attention is fragmented, your energy is drained, and your brain is constantly nudged towards short-term relief. And inside that system, a consumer mindset feels normal. Spending feels normal. Delaying feels normal. Avoiding discomfort feels normal. But normal is exactly what is keeping you stuck. Because there is another way to operate. A completely different mindset. One that most people never develop. Not because it is impossible, but because it requires going against everything your environment reinforces. We will get there. But first, you need to see what that alternative actually looks like in real life. There's a type of person most people completely overlook. They do not look rich. They do not act rich. And they definitely do not try to prove anything. If you saw them in public, you would not think twice. Simple clothes, practical choices, nothing loud, nothing impressive. But behind that quiet exterior, something very different is happening. They are building, slowly, consistently, intentionally. Let me paint this clearly. This person earns a solid, but not extraordinary income. No massive windfalls. No lucky breaks. Just steady work. But their behavior around money is fundamentally different. When they get paid, the first question is not, what can I afford right now? It is, what can I keep working for me later? That single shift changes everything. While most people are scanning for things to buy, they are scanning for things that grow, assets, things that produce, things that outlive the initial effort. And here is what makes this powerful. It is not dramatic. They are not making huge, risky moves. They are doing small, controlled actions repeatedly, month after month. They invest before they spend. They track what matters. They ignore most things that do not because they lack desire, but because they understand the cost behind every decision. Now compare that to what you see around you. Someone gets a raise. Within months, their lifestyle expands. Better car, more subscriptions, more small upgrades that feel justified. Nothing extreme, just enough to absorb the extra income. And now they are right back where they started. Working just as hard, but no closer freedom. That is the pattern. The quiet millionaire sees that pattern early, and they refuse to participate in it. Here is a small moment most people would miss. They walk into a store. They see something they like. And instead of asking, can I buy this? They ask, what does this cost me in future freedom? Think about that. Not price, cost, time, energy, opportunity. Because every dollar spent is not just gone. It is a dollar that no longer has a chance to grow. And once you start thinking like that, your behavior changes automatically. You hesitate more. You question more. You choose more carefully. Not out of fear, out of clarity. This is not about being cheap. It is about being precise. That is what most people misunderstand. They think wealth is built through extreme sacrifice. Cut everything. Remove all joy. Live rigid. That is not what is happening here. This person still enjoys life, still spends money, still lives comfortably, but the difference is control. Spending is intentional. Investing is automatic. Growth is expected. And over time, something quiet starts to happen. Their money begins to work. Not occasionally, not randomly, consistently. Small returns, compounding decisions, momentum building in the background. While others are chasing the next paycheck, they are slowly reducing their dependence on it. That is the shift. That is the game most people never learn. And here is the uncomfortable question. If someone with a similar income can build that kind of trajectory, what is actually creating the gap? It is not intelligence. It is not luck. It is not access. It is behavior. Repeated, quiet, daily behavior. That is what separates the two paths. One path looks normal. Earn, spend, reset, repeat. The other path looks almost invisible at first. Earn, keep, grow, repeat. And over time, those two paths do not just separate. They become completely different lives. One stays dependent. The other becomes free. So the question is not, do you make enough? The question is, which pattern are you reinforcing every single month? Now, this is where it becomes uncomfortable. Because what you are dealing with is not just a few bad habits. It is a system. Quiet, repetitive, predictable. And once you see it clearly, you start noticing it everywhere. It always begins the same way. A trigger, not something dramatic. Just a moment. You feel a little tired, a little stressed, a little bored. That is all it takes. No alarm, no warning, just a slight drop in your internal state. And your brain immediately starts looking for relief, not long-term solutions. Relief. That is the first shift. Then comes the urge. You reach for your phone without thinking. You open an app without deciding. You scroll without intention. This part feels automatic because it is. You have done it too many times. Your brain has learned the shortcut. Discomfort appears, escape behavior follows. And most people never interrupt this step. They just move through it. Now comes the escape. Scrolling turns into browsing. Browsing turns into considering. Considering turns into spending. Or maybe not spending. Maybe just consuming. Videos, content, distractions. Either way, the goal is the same. Change how you feel right now. And it works. For a moment, you feel better. That is the dangerous part, because the relief is real. Your mind relaxes. The pressure softens. The tension drops just enough. And your brain takes note. This worked. So it stores the pattern. Trigger, escape, relief. And now comes the part most people never see. Reinforcement. Because your brain does not care about your future. It cares about what worked in the past. So the next time you feel that same discomfort, it pushes you in the same direction. Faster this time. Stronger this time. More automatic. And just like that, the loop is set. Trigger. Urge. Escape. Relief. Repeat. That is the system. And here is why it becomes so expensive. Because money gets pulled into that loop, not as a logical decision, but as part of the escape. You are not spending because you plan to. You are spending because you felt something, and you wanted to change it. Let that sink in. Most of your unnecessary spending is emotional regulation, not financial decision-making. Now look at your environment, because this system does not exist in isolation. It is being fed constantly. You open social media. You see people living better, buying more, upgrading everything. Your brain does not process that logically. It processes it emotionally. Comparison, pressure, subtle dissatisfaction. Now you feel slightly behind. That becomes the next trigger. Then comes advertising. Perfectly timed, perfectly designed, showing you exactly what could fix that feeling. Confidence, status, comfort, all packaged into something you can buy instantly. And your brain connects the dots again. Feel bad by feel better, even if it only lasts for a few minutes. And then culture steps in. You deserve this. Treat yourself. You work hard. All of it sounds reasonable. All of it feels justified. But stacked together, it builds something powerful. A system that keeps you consuming. Not because you are weak, but because you're constantly being nudged. That is the part people miss. They think they are making independent decisions. But most of their behavior is reactive, shaped by environment, guided by emotion, reinforced by repetition. So they keep earning. They keep trying. They keep telling themselves they will be more disciplined next time. but they never step outside the loop. And this is where it gets dangerous, because the loop does not look like failure. It looks like normal life. You pay your bills. You manage your responsibilities. You stay functional. But underneath that, nothing is building. No momentum. No leverage. No real progress. Just movement. That is a trap. Not collapse. Stagnation. Slow, quiet stagnation that feels acceptable until years pass and you realize nothing really changed. Same patterns. Same pressure. Same cycle. So let me ask you something. Be honest. What do you do in the 5 seconds after discomfort appears? Do you sit with it? Or do you escape it? Because that small moment right there, that is where your financial future is being shaped. Not in big decisions. Not in rare opportunities. In those quiet, repeated reactions that feel too small to matter. That is the system controlling you. And most people never even realize they are inside it. Let's pause for a second, because this is the moment where most people check out. Not physically. Mentally, they nod along. They agree with everything. And then nothing changes. So be honest with yourself right now. Are you actually seeing your own patterns in this, or are you just listening because it sounds true? There is a difference. A big one. Because understanding something does not change your life. Seeing yourself in it does. Let me make this simple. How many times have you told yourself, next month I'll be more disciplined? And you meant it. You really did. But when the moment came, nothing was different. Same triggers. Same reactions. Same outcome. That is not a motivation problem. That is a pattern you never interrupted. And this is where you have to make a decision. Stay in recognition or move into responsibility. Because if you can see the loop now, you cannot pretend you don't. And what comes next is not about knowing more. It is about doing something differently, even if it is small, especially if it is small. So don't just sit there agreeing. Pay attention to what actually applies to you, because the next part is where this becomes practical. And if you are not honest here, you will turn this into another video you liked, and nothing in your life will change. So now you see the pattern. The question is, what do you actually do with it? Not in theory, not someday, but in your real, slightly messy, everyday life. Because if the solution feels complicated, you will not follow it. And if you do not follow it, nothing changes. So we keep this simple. Not easy, but simple. We are not fixing your entire financial life today. We are removing the behaviors that quietly destroy it, one by one. The first pattern is this. You spend to be seen, not always consciously, but it is there. A better phone, a nicer upgrade, something that signals you are doing well, even if no one says it out loud. And here's the truth most people avoid. The people you are trying to impress are not thinking about you that much. Think about that. You are trading real money for imagined validation. So here's the shift. Before you buy something, pause for 5 seconds and ask, does this improve my life or just my image? That question alone will stop more spending than any budget ever will. You will feel resistance. That is normal because you're interrupting a pattern. The second pattern is quieter. You do not track your money clearly, not because you cannot, because you avoid it. You check your balance, but you do not study your behavior. So money becomes vague, and vague things are easy to misuse. Here's a simple rule. Every dollar needs a direction before it leaves your account, not after. Before. You do not need a complex system, just awareness. If you know where your money is going, you automatically change how you use it. Most people never reach that step. The third pattern is one that feels justified, blaming the environment, the economy, the system, the cost of living. And to be fair, those things are real. But here is the problem. Blame removes control, and without control, nothing changes. So the shift is not denial. It is ownership. Ask yourself, what can I control right now? Your spending, your learning, your decisions. That is where power actually exists. Not out there. In here. The fourth pattern is how you use your time when you are tired. This one is critical because this is where most of your future is decided. You finish a long day, you feel drained, and your default is entertainment. Scrolling, watching, consuming. Again, nothing extreme, just normal. But here is the trade you are making. You are choosing short-term recovery over long-term growth every single time. So we do not remove it completely. We redirect it. 20 minutes. That is it. 20 minutes of something that builds you, a skill, a financial concept, something that increases your capacity. Then you can relax. But you earn that relaxation. That small shift compounds faster than you think. The fifth pattern is one of the most dangerous. Waiting for the perfect time. I'll start investing when I have more. I'll get serious next month. I just need things to settle first. It sounds logical. It feels responsible. But it is fear. Structured, polite, convincing fear. Because perfect conditions never arrive. So here's the rule. Start before you feel ready. Even if the amount is small. Even if it feels insignificant. Because starting changes your identity. You are no longer someone who plans. You are someone who acts. The sixth pattern is simple. Your money sits still in accounts that feel safe. But safety without growth is slow loss. You do not need to take extreme risks, but you do need movement. Money should not just exist. It should work. So the shift is this. Learn one basic investment path. Start small. Stay consistent. That is enough to begin. You do not need mastery. You need participation. And the seventh pattern ties everything together. You focus only on income, more hours, more effort, more pressure, but no system behind it. So your life becomes dependent on constant output. That is fragile. That is exhausting. That is why it never feels like enough. So the shift is subtle but powerful. Do not just earn money. Build something that earns with you. An asset, a skill, a system, something that continues even when you pause. That is how pressure starts to reduce. Now step back for a second. None of this is extreme. No massive sacrifices. No dramatic changes. Just small, repeated decisions. But that is exactly where the power is. Because your current situation was not created by one big mistake. It was built through patterns. Quiet ones, daily ones,